Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fantasy Gods. I'm Brett Chaves.
And I'm Tobey White.
So, Toby, I don't know if this happened to you this week, but my guys just did not perform at all. I mean, everyone was injured, and I was just scrapping for points on every single category. It was just a complete disappointment. How about you?
Well, my team came out of nowhere, and plus I was playing the worst team in my fantasy league. But I had I had three players actually pop off. I had Devontae Adams who had 3 touchdowns, then Tyler Lockett who also had 3 touchdowns, and they had over 30. Then Russell Wilson also in that shootout against Arizona, and he had like 4 touchdowns, and it was amazing for me. So it was a great positive week for me.
There you go. Good for you. And on that positive note, let's continue the positivity and go right into our first ever Fantasy Gods mid-season award show.
That's right, Brett. Today we will be rewarding players in categories of offensive player of the year, fantasy offensive player of the year, best defense, best kicker, best fantasy rookie, and our 2020 21 fantasy midseason MVP.
So, without further ado, let's get right into things and start off with our fantasy offensive player of the year. And to me, this is without a question. He's been performing out of his mind this season, and I think he's putting up ridiculous numbers and could possibly win MVP this year. Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, I don't know about you, Toby, but Russell Wilson has just blown away the category of quarterback. Whatever you want him to do, he will do. I don't think there's been a week this season where Russell Wilson has put under 25 points.
Yeah, definitely. And plus Russell Wilson, like since now Seattle is more a offensive team instead of a defensive team, they kind of flipped the script what they were like 8 years ago because they were so defensive heavy. But Russell Wilson has the weapons, passing to DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Chris Carson in the backfield, and he's being that vocal leader that everybody wants him to be.
Agreed. And just taking a look at his fantasy log right now, he does actually have 1 week under 25 points against Miami. That was in week 4, 20.9, which is still pretty impressive. But if we take a look at the other weeks, 36 points against Dallas, 31 points at Atlanta, 33 points in New England. I mean, this guy has just been performing out of his mind. This is some of the best numbers we've ever seen out of Russell Wilson. And if he keeps this up, he, in my opinion, will undoubtedly win MVP.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so moving into our best fantasy defense this far into the season, we have the Indianapolis Colts.
And and nobody predicted the Colts to be this good. Like nobody thought to draft the Colts defense, which I thought, for me personally, I thought the Bills defense were going to be good, but the Colts came out of nowhere. And also the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like we knew the Pittsburgh Steelers defense was also good too, but the Colts are on a whole nother level.
Agreed. And as of right now in ESPN Fantasy, they are ranked number 1 as far as defense. Last week, as of this recording, in week 8 at Detroit, they had 15 points, an interception, a fumble recovery, and a touchdown. And their best week this far, week 3, home against the Jets, 27 points on 3 interceptions and 2 touchdowns. So to me, the Colts defense has been putting up stellar numbers this year. I think they're actually better than the Steelers, who are projected to be the best defense going into this fantasy season. And I think if they keep performing at this caliber, they're going to be one of the top 3 defenses to be drafted for next year.
One also this week they have the MVP, like the former MVP, like Lamar Jackson coming into the building, so they have a tough task. They to stop the 5-2 Ravens.
Agreed. It's a tough thing to stop Lamar Jackson and his mobile abilities. That defensive line and inside linebacking core has to be on top of their toes and make sure that they have all grounds covered if they want to stop Lamar. All right, so moving into our next category, fantasy kicker, we are going to award this special position to Randy Bullock of the Cincinnati Bengals. He is also ranked number 1 right now as far as fantasy kickers. He's averaging a little over 12 points per game. His best game coming in week 4, home against Jacksonville, 4 for 4 with 3 extra points. to me, Randy Bullock has come out of nowhere. I don't think anybody saw this guy stepping into the role he has in Cincinnati and putting up numbers like he did. Yes, I don't think anyone projected Cincinnati to be playing at the level that they are right now, coming off a win against Tennessee as of this recording. But to me, Randy Bullock right now is untouchable. Yes, you have other guys like Jason Sanders and Daniel Carlson and Rodrigo Blankenship right behind him. But to me, Randy Bullock is by far the best kicker right now.
Well, over the past few years, people thought Justin Tucker was the best kicker in fantasy, but he has kind of dropped off. Like I feel like over the past few years, but now Randy Bullock just was like a dark horse. Nobody expected him to be this well, and especially for the Bengals, who were like a two, like 2-4-1, and being that poorly and stuff. But maybe they're just kicking field like to win games.
Agreed. I definitely think that the Bengals are forming their game plan so that way they allow Randy Bullock to move in and do his job. And he's just doing it consistently. And no one can argue with his stats right now. So let's move into our next category, our fantasy rookie as of midseason right now. I'm sure most people already know who this is going to be, considering he's been going out of his mind right now, and that's Justin Herbert from the LA Chargers. This kid has come in and he has proved himself. He was projected to redshirt at the beginning of this season, but since Tyrod Taylor went down with that medical incident, Justin Herbert has came in and he has lit the roof off. I mean, just looking at his stats, week 7, home against Jacksonville, 347 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. At New Orleans, 264 yards and 4 touchdowns. At the Buccaneers, 290 yards and 3 touchdowns. This kid is averaging almost 24 fantasy points per game. A
Yeah,
rookie.
yeah, yeah. Well, so also people thought Joe Burrow was going to be like talk of rookie year, but originally the Chargers' plan was to sit Justin Herbert for the rest of the season so Tyrod Taylor could start. But Tyrod only started one game, but now it's the Justin Herbert show. And so the other thing I would like to say is that the Chargers are a team to watch going forward, especially their future, because they have a future quarterback. They have like the new, better improved Philip Rivers.
I would agree. Definitely a team to watch out for, is not only this season, but in future years. Not only do you have Herbert, you still have Austin Eckler, who's ready to come off of injured reserve. You have Keenan Allen, who I think could be a very good second receiver, is Jalen Guyton. Very good. You have a solid tight end in Hunter Henry, and you have a young developing offensive line. This offense in LA could potentially be scary in 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, definitely.
So finally, in our last category, our mid-season fantasy gods, fantasy football MVP is undoubtedly Russell Wilson from Seattle. Following right behind him is Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. But at the way that Russell Wilson is playing right now, we feel that he deserves MVP.
Yeah, people thought that like it was gonna be a different player for the midseason for fantasy. Like people thought McCaffrey and stuff, but him finally coming back, which is nice. But Russell Wilson just takes the lead for like his takes the lead for his team, and Seahawks being 6-2 is no 6-1 is amazing, and hopefully we'll see them in this Super Bowl too. So
We shall
let's just see
see.
what happens.
We shall see. And going over some honorable mentions in these categories for offensive player of the midseason, we have Kyler Murray from Arizona and Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. Best defense, honorable mention, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Honorable mention for best kicker, we have Rodrigo Blankenship. Best fantasy rookie, honorable mentions, we have Joe Burrow from Cincinnati, as well as T. Higgins from Cincinnati, who's been lighting it up this far. I think he's found a connection with Joe Burrow as well. An honorable mention for midseason MVP, following Russell Wilson, like we just mentioned, Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. So that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of Fantasy Gods. I'm Brett Chaves.
And I'm Tobey White. Keep calm and play fantasy football. It's the second half, so games matter.
Yes, sir.